and I just didn't feel in alignment with this future best self. And I just, over the summer, I wasn't feeling good. Honestly, my heart was I was waking up like on the weekends when we were socially drinking with like palpitations, and my family has heart problems. So I got scared, and I was like, I feel like a hypocrite, number one. I'm talking health and fitness, I'm talking faith and protecting your temple, and then I'm treating my body like a garbage can. And I just decided that on August 7th, I was just gonna take a 30-day break. Like, I needed to reevaluate. It was like a promise. I call it 30 days of me. And I've done that in the past, but it had been a while. So I'm like, I need a break. I need just to clean this up and clear up my mind. And I haven't stopped. Yesterday was 190 days. And the more as the days go, I just know that alcohol is not going to serve me anymore. That's not the person I want to be. Plus, I want to be a role model for my boys, right. And they're teenagers. Yeah, that was something that was always playing in the back of my head. Now I'm going to cry for it. Was like, what kind of role model are you being right now? What are you showing them?
Welcome to the Kingdom Minded Mompreneur, where we, Becky
and Monique, your new biz besties, both busy moms just like you.
We're here to talk all things network marketing, mom life, and how to truly live out your calling. We'll be dropping 2 episodes each week to help you, the busy mompreneur, know the exact strategies to build both your business and your home. You'll hear each week from one of the top network marketers on their best tips for what's led to their success and what's working now.
We know that you're here because you are called to something more. You have a desire to succeed in both your business and at home, and we are going to teach you how. If you love what you hear here on the podcast and want to be one of our success stories, join us inside our community, the Kingdom Minded Mompreneur, where we provide a daily social media action plan, additional resources, kingdom coaching, and more. Click the show notes for the link to join. So let's get into the episode. Hello, welcome back to the Kingdom Minded Mompreneur. It is Monique here along with Becky Baxter, and we actually have another Becky in the house today. Welcome, Becky Brossett. Good to see you here today.
Hey, ladies. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm so honored to be here and be able to speak to your listeners today.
Yes. So if you do not know Becky, she is with BODi, formerly known as Beachbody. She is a superstar diamond, the highest rank that you can get in the company. She is part of the Legacy Club. She is from Miami, Florida, has 2 boys, and she has accomplished a lot in her business. I personally have been watching her for years on Instagram, and I'm just so inspired by her consistency. I love the way that she shows up online. I love the way that she is that example of somebody who prioritizes her fitness, prioritizes her home life. And recently, she has started to share more of her journey with sobriety and her journey in something new that she is stepping into and really taking ownership of her life and her health in a new way. So welcome, Becky. We'd love for you to share some of your story.
Okay, well, thank you again. And I'm very raw. So if I cry, I always cry. I can't help it. So I started looking for me again when my second son was born. My kids they're 17 and the little one will be 16 in May. So they're 16 months apart. At the beginning of all of this evolution for me, I just was lost in motherhood, to be honest. I didn't know what to do to find me again. And the depression with my second was pretty hard. And my best friend came with P90X and was like, she knew fitness to me is my biggest passion. And she's like, you need this. At 6 weeks, you need to do this. You need to make time for yourself. And I think that's a big thing that I like talking about is like mothers need to stop martyring themselves for everyone and put themselves first. Because I realized back then, 15 and a half years ago, that if I fell apart, my home was going to fall apart,
Oh,
you know?
yes.
And I had a 2 under 2, a 16-month-old and a baby. And I needed to find joy, and fitness is that spark for me. So that kind of like, yeah, I lost the weight, and yeah, I didn't recognize my body, which was a thing. But more than that, I needed like a mental edge again. I needed something exciting to look forward to for me personally. And it just, that program gave me my soul back. And I just found this energy that it gave me this purpose. Like, wow, I used to think that once you became a mom, like that was it. You know, that's kind of what I saw around me. And I'm like, why? Why can't you make time for yourself and feel good and feel sexy and feel like I've got kids and look, I'm doing all these things. And back then I was working in construction. So that was my past life. I was in a male dominated industry. I was an estimator. I was very successful, and I just wasn't identifying with that anymore. And it was back, I don't know how old you guys are, but I'm 48. I'm 48 and a half. That was the last time the economy kind of collapsed, and construction was horrible. And I'm like, God, please send me something. Please, I need something. This can't be it. I think that was the question that was constantly,
Yeah. You knew there
like,
was something more.
yeah, I'm like, this cannot be it. This battling and the rinse and repeat of getting up and the dropping off the kids and rushing to work, and it just didn't feel like, how am I gonna live this life if I can't? We're like drowning. And I was like, please, I need an opportunity, I need something. And that's when Beachbody kind of quite literally through Facebook fell in my hands. And one thing about my story that I will weave in, and I guess you'll see, is that I'm very obedient. So whether I'm uncomfortable, whether I'm scared, whether there's doubt, I see the flip side on, this was presented to me for a reason. I have to say yes. And this is why I said yes to the podcast. I'm like, this aligns with everything I believe in. I'm going to say yes. And that's kind of how Beachbody, the business opportunity started for me, was just this, I need to make more money. My life right now is feeling flat. I need something with a greater purpose. And instead of doing what most people do and facing this decision and saying, well, what if I fail? I asked myself some better questions. And I was like, well, what if I succeed?
Oh,
What
I
if
love that.
this is what I'm being called to do? What if this is, why not me? Like, why not me? I don't know anything because I didn't research anything. I was like, I just know that I had an amazing transformation with P90X and Insanity, and I knew that other moms needed to do this. And I just ran with that. I'll figure it out. That's something that my mom gets so annoyed at me and my sister, because we're always like, we'll just figure it out.
That's like 95% of Monique and my business strategy. We'll just try it and see. Like, we'll figure it out along the way.
I mean, it's better than simmering in like confusion. Like,
right.
Let's just take action and see what happens.
Yeah. Well, first, I just want to say, when I'm 48, I want to look like you. So let's just establish that. People are not, they're listening to the audio, but I'm like, I want the tone and definition. So clearly what you're doing is working. Incredible.
Thank you.
And I imagine the confidence that's come with it has, helped as well, wanting to show up more and serve more and help other women. Man, I love that you just said that phrase, this cannot be it, because I think so many women, when you said you were drowning in motherhood, I tell people that all the time. Like, it was like part of my story was I was drowning in diapers and feeling this, like, you almost feel guilty, at first, because you're like, am I the only one that feels this way? Like, does everyone else just have this joy? They wake up, they get to change diapers and play on the floor with little people and get puffs. Like, am I the only one, And so I think there are probably women out there listening that have had that same feeling or have it. And I love that you said you were obedient. You just felt like God
placed something in your life at a very specific time. And so you obviously had a very physical, right, transformation. I'm sure it impacted your mental, like emotional well-being as well. But I would love to know, did you feel like when you made that decision to start working the business aspect, were there any hurdles or mindset blocks that really kind of held you back, or even that you just had to work through?
At any stage, well, there's always been mindset, I think at the beginning I was just straight up excited. I was so excited. I was like, and I made a sale the first week, and I was like, oh, let's go, like, this is so exciting, I can do more. And so it was that building of the push was exciting. I think the first mental hurdle came like a year and a half in, and it was the good old comparison that everybody deals with. Like, why is she that rank and I'm not? Like, I wasn't even looking at the financial. I was making more money. Like, isn't that what I wanted, to make money? And I was comparing myself to other people, but why are their ranks like that? And why am I still stuck here? And that lesson was really pivotal at that moment, because I realized that it's not about me. It's, like, if you help more people get what they want, you will get what you want. And that was a huge turning point at the beginning of my business. Like, I need to stop worrying about my points and my this, that, and the other thing, and serving my current coaches that have potential, and serving my clients better, because the more I can get them, I mean, I've done it. I've done some, so I had success at that point. If I can teach them to do that, then it's game on. Like, this business is going to change completely for me. And that was a big one. Personal development, which I'll talk about a lot. I resisted at the beginning, but if you're a CEO in any aspect, if you're trying to build a business in anything, you need personal development, because the challenges, expect them. And if your mind is not ready, then you're going to falter. It's just, you need that focus. You need to work on yourself. I've always said, like, you can have goals up to here, like, like super high goals, but if your work ethic is not parallel, if your mind is not parallel, if your growth is not, you're not, like, God is not going to give you the $1 million business if you have a $5 mindset. Like, you need to raise your standards, raise your ambition, raise your goals, raise your thinking, in order to be able to handle $1 million business.
Wow.
So I learned that in the first 2 years. I'm like, I need personal development. I need to make this a priority. And it's just been a huge part of my whole business. I think deep faith, or I wasn't really that faithful until like 2015. And that's when that aspect came in, where now it's just, I see it, to me, God and the Bible and all of that is like the greatest personal development source that there is.
Wow. That is incredible. Yes. And it's so true. And I think so often, for people who may not align with those values, it can feel like, how does your faith help you grow your business? But I think you're exactly right with what you said about, when you become essentially the best version of yourself, that only levels up all these other areas of your business. And then when it comes to our faith, I really believe that that's also when we find our identity in Christ and who God says that we are. That's when we have this unstoppable confidence, because it's not even in our own confidence. It's really in who we believe that God has called us to be, and being confident in that. So what was that shift that you made in, you said 2015, what was that shift you made? And then also share with us a little bit about this journey that you're currently on, because I think, you've had this success, but then it's like you really hit this next level in the last year or so, that you've really had this next level of being honest with yourself, noticing some things about yourself. Can you share with us about that?
Yeah. So in 2015, just real quick, that was the year that I like hit the goal, which was it used to be called the Million Club. Now it's a Legacy Club. That was the goal. So I did that right a month before I turned 40. I had retired myself from construction, retired my husband for like everything. Everything was like, you know that saying, I'll be happy when? Well, that was, I'll be happy when all these things happen. And then all those things happened and I was still not happy. And that's when I realized that you can have all the money in the world. The money will bring out all the things that you don't like about yourself. And I just was not happy. And at the end of that year, my best friend and her mom were like, maybe you should try a Christian church. And that's where I realized like I wasn't really living to my potential. I was not grateful, even though I said I was. And it was really, I felt shame about that. So I started that work on myself, that there's more. Like, I guess I needed something bigger than myself to believe in, that there's a greater purpose than just building this business and making money. Like, I needed something else. And I guess it was the turning 40. I don't know. It just all aligned. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. To believe that there's this huge calling on my life. So that has evolved since then. In the last year, I've just been really deep in with the Growth Day app and with Brendan Burchard. And he's partnered with BODi now. So, and to me, he's one of the greatest humans that there are right now.
Yeah,
So
we agree.
he is just special, and just through him and the work, listening to him and going to the events, I just developed this sense of like my future best self and who she is and how she needs to show up and who is she in God's eyes. And that's when I realized this summer, like, I had this identity of the super hardcore fitness, right? Like, yeah, Becky does the hardcore fitness. She's done like 48 Beachbody programs. Like, she's die hard. I ran a marathon. Like, I do the things. I say I'm doing it. I do all the things. And yet I was like, my identity was tied to being like this party girl who works super hard. And it was starting to get really exhausting. And I just didn't feel in alignment with this future best self. And I just, over the summer, I wasn't feeling good. Honestly, my heart was I was waking up like on the weekends when we were socially drinking with like palpitations, and my family has heart problems. So I got scared, and I was like, I feel like a hypocrite, number one. I'm talking health and fitness. I'm talking faith and protecting your temple. And then I'm treating my body like a garbage can. And I just decided that on August 7th, I was just going to take a 30-day break. Like, I needed to reevaluate. It was like a promise. I call it 30 days of me. And I've done that in the past, but it had been a while. So I'm like, I need a break. I need just to clean this up and clear up my mind. And I haven't stopped. Yesterday was 190 days. And the more as the days go, I just know that alcohol is not going to serve me anymore. That's not the person I want to be. Plus, I want to be a role model for my boys, and they're teenagers.
Yeah.
That was something that was always playing in the back of my head. Now I'm going to cry for real. Was like, what kind of role model are you being right now? What are you showing them? Like, this is unacceptable. And I did apologize to them. Oh, shoot.
I'm over here crying.
Yeah, Becky, you're gonna have us all in tears. I have 3 teenage boys, and so as you're saying this, I'm just thinking, I love that you are sharing this, because so many other moms can relate.
Yeah.
I do feel, and I've seen it in the last couple of years, especially since COVID, like, I don't know, it's everywhere. And it had already been in my purview, right? Like the messages on TV, the television shows, how people are behaving, like the mommy wine time and all that. It just was starting to trigger me, and I'm like, I don't like this. And like, women especially, I know, are suffering with alcohol Like, it's, the numbers are staggering. And I'm like, if I can do it, anybody could do it. Like, it was tied to my identity. Like, that's who I was. Like, my team, me and my sister, like, we're the party team. If I can create a new identity, anybody can. And I'm still having fun. I haven't stopped doing anything. I went to a concert last night. We went to see Journey. Like, haven't stopped anything. It's just redefining the way I do things. It's exciting. Every event is like, now since it's brand new, it's like first Super Bowl and the first this and the first that. But I get to find out that I'm fun, even without alcohol, that life is clear and I wake up feeling great and I don't have to grind through a workout, because I would work out hungover or not. It didn't matter. I was going to get it done. That's exhausting after a while.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say I'm so inspired by you and I'm proud of you for making that decision. The last sip of alcohol I had was March 5th of last year. So I'm on a very similar journey in that, I wouldn't go as far to say my identity was tied to it, but I was living in a very like toxic environment. And I didn't, I think, recognize how I was coping, right, with that environment. Was at the end of the day, like, I would treat myself, right, like to a glass of wine or a margarita. And then it turned into like every day I was doing it. And I wouldn't necessarily get belligerently drunk, but that's how I was coping with some trauma and just, and it all kind of spiked after COVID. Like, it's, because we were home. And so my husband at the time we would have like happy hour, like basically every day, and you kind of fall into this trap of, this is what I do to relax. This is, okay, at first it's just for social gatherings, and then you bring it home, and then, and the next thing you know, you're like, I've done things and I've behaved in ways I am not proud of, like you said, with like your boys, and just recognizing like who it is you want to become and that version of you. I just love that you spoke to that, because I think about that a lot now too. It's like that version of me, that future self. Is she doing these things? And is that in alignment with who I really want to be? I think that is just so beautiful. And I love that you were so raw. And I just connect so much to your story, because I think about, there are so many women out there that are probably silently suffering, and they maybe don't even realize it. Like, I don't know if you're like me, like I didn't really think I had a problem, right? Like I was like, oh, it's not a problem. Like, it's just fun and social, and just the, I think, abuse of it, and the consistent use has, when you're clear of it, you're like, wow, I can think so much more clearly and I feel better. And I would love to know, how has that decision impacted your family?
So, I mean, for me and my husband, this is a growing, it's an evolution, because we met partying. Like, this is what we do, like, or did.
And you're from Miami. I feel like I think of Miami as like the party place,
Yeah, and we have a townhouse in the Keys, and that's boating and partying and the sandbars, and and that's what we did. So now we have to figure out a new dynamic, which is fine. We're doing fine. We're managing through it. I just think that I show up every day differently. I'm clearer. Like, I have a different purpose, and I really want to help other women through this, because I do what you said. It's true, Becky. Like, people are suffering. And I honestly want my boys to see that you don't need this in your life to be fun, you don't need to fall into the peer pressure. You don't need to cloud your mind. You can just do life how you are, love yourself. And I have gone on Instagram and talked, like, basically said, this is for the teenagers. And then just like tried to get them to see, because I know that my kids' friends and some of my other friends, teenagers, they follow me. Like, don't fall into it. Like, don't even let it in, because it's not worth the consequences that come from something that you don't know. Alcohol is designed to make you want to drink more. It's literally designed for that.
Yeah.
There's
So
no
as
person
you're,
that drinks less. They
yeah,
drinking more.
I love this. I'm just kind of like not laughing, but thinking to myself because, you know, I mentioned I have 3 teenage boys. And so I've had to have many conversations like this. And the thing that comes to my mind, and this is kind of the conversation we have in our home, is there's this verse that talks about, you know, everything is permissible, but not everything is profitable. And I think that in your life, there are so many things that are okay. You know, it's okay. It's not that it's quote unquote wrong, but is this profitable? And especially when you're ambitious and driven and goal oriented. And I love that you said you're looking at that future version of yourself. You know, if you were to ask yourself, is this profitable for the person who I want to become? And I think when we all ask ourselves that question, we can then decide, okay, what are the actions that I need to be taking every single day to become that version of myself? So something I was observing in when you were sharing that story is what stands out to me is discipline. Like I was thinking, okay, you already have the muscle of discipline in your workouts, in your business activities, in achieving the things. And so I was thinking, I'm like, okay, but you basically just transfer that discipline to sobriety because it does take discipline. It does take self-control. It does take telling yourself no. So I love that you have shifted that and been able to practice discipline in this area. We would love for you to share, because you have achieved a lot of success in business. What are some of the either disciplines that have allowed you to do that, or some of the daily actions? Like when you look at the success you've achieved in BODi, tell us a little bit about that.
So, well, to succeed in anything, you're not going to be motivated every day. I mean, I'm not motivated to work out every day, but for me it's about who I'm becoming, and I do tie that also to faith. Like God gave me this body. Like I get to do this. The same goes with the business. It's always been, at the beginning it was more of, I was disciplined because I wanted to leave my job. You know, that was the why. I wanted to be able to take my kids to school and not have to depend on my mom. I think now, 13 and a half years in, I just have like a greater purpose, and the discipline comes from knowing that this business is a vehicle to impact lives. Like I can help a woman get fit and healthy. That translates into changing the dynamic of a family unit. I've always seen that as a great blessing in this business. Like you change the mom, you change the whole family, and that comes in with personal growth. It comes in with the nutrition, with the fitness, and with the business as well. And tying that back to even motherhood, like I just feel like I need to keep my word, not only to myself, but to my kids and to God. Like I said, I'm going to do big things. I tell my kids to work hard. I tell my kids to be motivated, to have work ethic. Well, then guess what? I got to do it too, because I'm not going to preach one thing and do the other. And that kind of discipline is like in my whole brain. It's, you take action because you know that every day matters, that by keeping the momentum going, you have that opportunity to serve someone and maybe find that woman who is like you and speaking to her. That's one thing I try to do every day when I wake up and I'm praying and I do my morning routine. I ask God to please just, what does she need to hear from me today? What are the words? How can I serve her to believe that more is possible, that she also has a big destiny, but she needs to stand up and like, let's get to work. So that discipline comes from knowing my vision, knowing that I have big goals. I want to impact. I know you wanted to talk about the kingdom impact. For me, it's not about the purses, and I did all that. I did all that. Like, it's cool, but that doesn't motivate me. What motivates me is the big visions that I have about like donating to my kids' school. They go to an all-boy Catholic school. I want to be like a contributor there. I want, to impact future students. I want to serve in like this organization called Blue Missions, where they bring water sources to villages in the Dominican Republic. Like big things, big impact. That is what the business has tied for me right now. And faith, it's like, I know that it's not just about, helping people get fit, but it's about what can that helping that person spark in their lives and spark in me as well. And that keeps me going. Like, how can I speak to her? How can I impact her? How can I make her see that she can do more too?
Oh, wow. I love that. And it's so interesting to me, like the more people that we interview, it's like, especially these high performing women of faith, right? It's like you get to the top, you earn the accolades, you have all of these worldly possessions, and then you come to a place in your career where you realize like, okay, I get it. Like God put this in my life to refine me, to prepare me, to elevate me to a position so that I can then impact the world and change things for him. Right. And it's just like so inspiring to hear your story because you're like, I've done the thing, I've earned the this and the trips and, whatever, like have the boat or the house and all the things. But really, ultimately, what matters is what's inside our hearts and serving, surrendering to God and using those resources for him. And so I just love that you shared your heart and I could tell you were fighting back tears. It's just inspiring to me to want to be the best version of myself. And I think too, speaking to that woman who feels like, okay, Becky, you have it all, right? Like you have it all. And that all sounds great that you want to change the world, but I'm trying to pay my bills, right? Like, what would you say to that woman if she is like, I'm just struggling to, financially get out of debt or do the thing? Because we all, it's like you got to start somewhere, right? And so, how would you encourage that mama?
So the first thing that comes to my mind is like, I started at zero too. I didn't start with the accolades. I didn't start with this life. I started also in a financial turmoil. Like, going to Costco was stressful, and there comes a point, Brendan Burchard calls it the demarcation line. You draw that line in the sand and you're like, this is not how I'm going to live. There has to be more. And for things to change, you have to change, and you actually have to say yes. That's where the obedience comes in. One thing that I talk about openly is I feel like some Christians get it wrong. Like, God is not a fairy godfather. He wants you to get up and get to work. It's not going to fall out of the sky. And if he's blessing you with an opportunity and you can't stop thinking about it, you need to say yes, and you need to figure it out, and you need to not have a plan B, because that's the other thing. Like, I signed up and I'm like, there is no plan B. I love this company. I love fitness. I've always loved fitness. This is it. So I'm going to figure it out no matter what. And we're just going to ride this train and let's see what happens. But there's transformation in the yes. You say yes, it takes the pressure off. Okay, let's go. And then you just got to keep saying yes every single day and being obedient. When he puts something in your heart, you do it. When I get an idea, I just take action.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's go.
I love
Because
that
obviously that's there for a reason. So let's go.
Yeah, I'm laughing when you said, God's not a fairy godmother to just like, give you the dream life while you sit on your butt and do nothing. Absolutely. We agree with that. So, with that, what does it look like practically? Like when you have new people who they see you online, they sign up to join your team, they want to get started with their business. What are some of the practical steps that if somebody's listening and they're like, okay, I just got started in my business, I see the vision of what's possible, but I want to take those daily actions. What are some of the daily actions that got you to where you are?
Okay, so I worked on myself first. And, with Beachbody, it's being committed to, every business is different. But like, you have to be the product of the product. Like, it's not about the business and what they're selling. It's you talking to your ideal client, right? It's your story. So what I do with my newer coaches, I have them in like a chat, I use Instagram mainly. I'm not a real huge fan of Facebook. So I have chats on Instagram, and we do have a training system created by BODi, which is like a 28-day action plan. So we go through that together, but it's daily accountability. And I want them to be, first of all, committed to the products. Like, I believe 1000% that you have to be a raving fan of the company in order to speak about it with confidence. Like, you don't have to have abs, and you don't have to look like me. That's my decision, right? This is my body. This is the way I want to look. You don't have to be like me, but you do have to work on yourself. So that's number one. It's commitment to the fitness, to the products, to being better. Just be better. That's it. That's all we're asking for. And then it's learning skills. So if social media is not, you're not proficient, find trainings. Like, we live in a world where all the information is at your fingertips. Be proactive. That's one thing that I am like very, very, very adamant about. Like, go find the information first. I'm not Google. You can very easily Google it yourself, or go on the coach office and find the FAQ. If you can't find it, I am absolutely here to help. But be resourceful, because when you learn something firsthand, it's better than being spoon-fed the information. I did that as a new coach. When I started, what is happening now with all these trainings is it's overload of trainings. Back then, I had to find trainings and like get on other people's the calls. Remember it used to be like a dial-in thing.
Yeah.
We would call in, and I would find a recording somehow and listen to trainings. I was out there looking for the information, because I wanted to build the business. I wasn't waiting for anybody to give me the information. I was being proactive. And there was something else that I wanted to say. You got to learn the business. That's the other thing.
Yeah. I love that so much.
Know the compensation plan. Know how to maximize your income. I get annoyed when people say they're not numbers people, but are you a business owner? Because if you're a business owner, you're going to have to deal with numbers. I don't like to read, but I don't avoid reading because I don't like to read. Like, you have to just face it. Maybe it's your weakness. Spend more time there. Learn it. Build your skills. And that goes by. And then just to build impact, you got to have knowledge. So don't be afraid to learn and ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help.
I think that's so good. I mean, such sound advice. And I think, when I look back on my own career, when I was in the industry, right, the leaders that I developed who, like you said, right, I spoon fed and I helped, answer every single question or whatever in the beginning of my career, they didn't last very long, right? Versus the people that had to build the strength that I provided resources. But I love that you said, I'm not Google, right? I used to sarcastically joke and be like, oh my gosh, have you not heard? There's this really incredible website called www.google.com. And people would just be like, okay, Becky, but it's like, because yes, you're right. Like, we are in an age of information. And so if anyone comes to me and says, if they would be like, I don't know how to do X, Y, and Z, I'm like, I get it, but you're exactly right. Like, when we experience it firsthand, it's going to stick. It's more likely to stick, and you're taking ownership, right?
Yeah.
And there's a sense of pride with that. So thank you so much for sharing that. I think so many people need to be reminded of that, that in this unfortunate season or age of entitlement, it's like, just like you said, God is not just going to hand things to you on a silver platter. He literally says in scripture that we are going to struggle, but the riches are there if we are willing to put in the effort and the work and ask him, for favor. And so I would love for you to share. This has been such a great conversation. I've really enjoyed getting connected with you, and I really resonate with your story, so much about it. And I know there are women out there that are listening that, are probably so inspired by you and the journey that you've been on. Obviously, you exemplify to us the Kingdom Minded Mompreneur, and we're always curious to hear, what does that definition mean to you?
So I feel like we have a duty, not only to our families. Like I said at the beginning, this whole mindset of martyring yourself for your family and your kids. And I've never been down with that. Like, I feel like we have an obligation to rise up too, and to find our way, whatever that may be. It doesn't have to be a business owner, but work on yourself and inspire the best out of your family. Like, be the linchpin. I always say that a rising tide lifts all ships, and as moms, we are the tide. We're the tide. So finding your way in that is super important. And then just knowing that through business, through fitness, through your podcast, you can touch lives and further the kingdom impact is really, it's a great responsibility. It's not easy, especially in the world that we live in now. I talk about my faith openly. I talk about how I intertwine it and how I see it in fitness and nutrition. Because it's part of the big picture of everything. We're here to do great things. I believe that we were all called and made to do great things. And we just have to get out of our own way to do that. And as moms, we have the responsibility. We have the responsibility. I see down the road, I want my sons to think my mom has never given up. She's always worked hard through the hard times. Right now is a hard season, right? Network marketing is hard right now, but they've seen me fight since they were born. They've seen me transform my body, I don't know how many times. They've seen me run a marathon. They've seen me build this business, walk across stages, speak on stages, like do things that are hard. And I believe that gives them permission to do the big, giant, hard things too. And that is what's really important to me, is showing other moms and my children, my husband, that we can do so much more if we just believe in ourselves and put our heads down, get to work, be good people, believe in God, and things will fall into place. They will. He's always protected us. I pray, I thank God every day for that. Through the challenges, through the ups and downs, he's always been there, always protected me and my family. And I know he'll continue to do that. I just need to keep showing up as my best self, faithful, obedient, and as a servant.
Wow. Becky, thank you so much for all that you have shared. I'm just thinking how many incredible things you have said today that I know will speak to the women who are listening. And I love what you just said about, rising tides lift all ships. And you said, we as moms are the tide. And that's so true. It's so accurate that our children are watching, and, we cannot ask of our children to do hard things if we ourselves are not willing to do those hard things. So yes. You exemplify that, like you are that example. And your children are watching. And I know it makes you emotional because it's a big calling. And when you said just a second ago, you said, I really believe that God gives all of us a call. And I was thinking, well, but not all of us answer that call. Yeah. We may all be given big things that he has told us to do or shown us to do. And some people might be fearful. Some people might be, fear that they lack clarity, or for whatever reason, they just don't step into it. And you are that example of obedience and stepping into what you feel like God has called you to, and your children are going to be impacted. So thank you so much for sharing your story. And for those who are listening, if they want to connect with you, we will put these in the show notes, but can you also share with us, how can someone find you? How can they connect with you?
Yeah, the best way is through Instagram. So I'll drop it, Becky_Brossett, or email Coach Becky B at Gmail. Those are the two best ways, but I'm on Instagram. That's my favorite platform. I show up daily, I show my daily morning routine every single day, my workouts. I do my best to really speak to my ideal client and show her that, you don't have to do what I do, but you do have to show up. You got to start somewhere.
So inspiring. Thank you again for spending some time with us. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much, guys. This was awesome.
Thanks so much for listening to the Kingdom Minded Mompreneur. If you loved what you heard today, could you stop and give us a 5-star rating and review? It helps our visibility on podcasting platforms so others, like you, can hear more of this message.
Also, if this episode encouraged you, we would love for you to pass it along to your own biz bestie and anyone else who could benefit. Lastly, don't forget that if you want to hang out with us just a little bit more, join us inside the Kingdom Minded Mompreneur community. Click the link in the show notes. Bye for now.